This is the story I call Loma Prieta and the Big Red Binder. At 2 minutes before the Loma Prieta earthquake hit, I was standing in a doorway on the 17th floor of a high-rise building in San Francisco, and oddly, I was holding in my hand a large red binder of disaster recovery plans. The universe was clearly having some fun. So let's go back. The Loma Prieta earthquake hit in 1989 on October 17th at 5:04 p.m., the night of Game 3 of the World Series between Oakland and San Francisco. At the time, I was a senior manager at Wells Fargo Bank, which meant that I had a number of departments reporting to me, and my office was at 525 Market Street in San Francisco on the 17th floor, corner office, high-rise building. Earlier that year, in the summer of '89, Wells Fargo had conducted a company-wide project to develop comprehensive disaster planning for business recovery in case of a major fire or earthquake. The result of that program was a large red binder of information that every department manager was supposed to keep on his or her desk. In early September of that year, I got a large box delivered to me that had enough large red binders for each of my direct reports. So, over the course of September and early October, as a normal part of my job, traveling around the state, I would bring a large red binder with me so that when I met with my direct report, I would hand it to that person and instruct them with what to do with it. On October 17th, were you paying attention? At 5:45 in the afternoon, I'd had a long day. I was looking for something easy to do to finish my day and then go home and watch the World Series. And I noticed that I had one large red binder left yet to be delivered, and it was to my direct report, Ed, who happened to be officed very close to me. He was on the same floor, diagonally opposite from where I sat. So at a couple of minutes to 5, I picked up that last large red disaster planning binder and I headed off across the floor. What? Me worry? So I get over to Ed's office. Ed's door's open, and I can tell because of that Ed is in a heated argument with somebody on the phone. And he's really going. So I'm standing in the doorway. Ed can't see me because he's got his desk oriented to look out at his nice view over the South Bay. And I'm just kind of biding my time in the doorway because I just want to get a message to him to call me, and then I'll tell him what to do with this binder of information. But he's not taking a breath. He's not taking a break. He's in a heated conversation. Finally, at 3 minutes after 5, I decide I've just got to break in. I can't wait around. And so I take this large red binder and I walk over to Ed and I put it right in front of his face and I point at it. Ed breaks his stream of yelling at this person on the phone to look at this binder that says, Wells Fargo Disaster Plan. Large red binder. And he's looking at that right when the building starts shaking like crazy. It was unbelievable. Ed looks at this binder and what it is, his eyes get large, the building's shaking like crazy, and he looks up at me and he goes, "What have you done?" Anyhow, we hit the floor. And everything is now chaos. Everything's falling off of his shelves. Both of us are on the floor and it's really shaking. But then after a moment, the motion of the building changes from mere shaking to this regular motion. The building starts waving back and forth like a giant metronome or something. And big buildings are not supposed to do that. And that's when the memory occurs to me of something that I had heard earlier about that building. Turns out that building was the last high-rise building built in San Francisco prior to the city completely restructuring and strengthening their earthquake safety planning codes for high-rise buildings. So this building didn't have that. So every time it's swaying back and forth, it would get out to this apex of the swing, and then it would pause. And I'd hold my breath, and I'm, come on back. And luckily it would, and it was so scary. Finally, the waving starts slowing down, and then it finally stops. My heart is up in my throat, adrenaline is pumping. Ed and I kind of stagger to our feet, checking each other. Are you okay? Are you okay? And we're like, oh my God, that was unbelievable. Then the next thing that happens is that in the ceiling, the PA speaker crackles on. We both look up. Why? That's what you do. So and I'm thinking, okay, good. This is going to be somebody in charge of this high-rise building who's going to give some directions and tell us what to do, right, in this emergency. A moment later, what we hear is, "Stay calm!" It was a young man's voice who was clearly losing it. You know, I've never met this guy, but in my mind's eye, I think he was probably the security guard down in the lobby. And he was probably leafing through his big red binder, trying to figure out what he's supposed to do, because he's got the keys to everything in this large building with hundreds of people in it. Ed and I, with all the adrenaline and the stress, we couldn't help but we just bust out laughing. Anyhow, a moment later, the young man finally catches himself and he starts to work through the telling of the information that he's supposed to give, which is that he has shut off the elevators, normal emergency procedures, but he also tells us that we're not supposed to leave the floor and go down the stairway until they're checked for safety. The building engineer, as it turns out then, pre-9/11 by the way, the building engineer whose office is in the basement had to take a flashlight and climb the 36 floors of this high-rise building, checking to make sure that the stairways were intact. And then he would give the all clear. So we, me, Ed, and all the other employees on the 17th floor stayed on the 17th floor for about an hour and a half in order for us to get the green light to go down the stairway. And then all of the hundreds of people in this building start piling down the stairways to Market Street, which was just chaos when we got down there, because the Bay Bridge had collapsed, BART was no longer working, and all of us who lived in the East Bay had no way to get home. And so we were just scrambling to try to figure it out. In my journey during that disaster, I didn't get home till 5 a.m. the next morning. And in reflection of that whole episode, one of the things that I learned is that in trying to navigate those disasters that sometimes occur in life, there are no big red binders to refer to. Thank you very much.